Welcome to Bet On It. It's College Football Week 13. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Joe Raineri. We've got some TNA for you. We're going to break down some of those big games with some barking dogs. Maybe the deli's back open because, well, it's been open every single week, except for this is the last week before, well, conference championships. Fade Joe Public VR is going to join us with some gold, and we've got best bets at the end of the show. But before we get going, I wanted to tell you guys, even if you missed the Thanksgiving edition of Bet On, we're still running that Thanksgiving $69 7-day special. This is the best price that you're going to get all year. $69, 7-day all access special. That is every play from your favorite handicapper for less than $10 a day. Marco D'Angelo, you've been running hot, so we're going to let you open up first here with the big game breakdown. Now, we kind of went back and forth on which game shouldn't be the second leg, but this one was no debate. Saturday, Fox, big noon, Eastern, Ohio State, a 3.5-point dog at Michigan, total 46.
Yeah, Kelly, no question. This is the play of the week, game of the year, whatever you want to call it. And Michigan and Ohio State. Seems like every year you got these two. And if you go back to last year, remember, these two made the playoffs. They were both basically a play away from going to the national championship game, and they both came up just short. You look at it, Michigan's the favorite. We know all of the stuff that's going on. Michigan, there will be no Coach Harbaugh on the sidelines, as we've seen the last 2 weeks against Penn State. I think that was actually a motivational factor for Michigan. They had the week's game plan in hand. That news came down on Friday night late, and I think the team used that as an added motivation against Penn State. And then, of course, James Franklin was on the other sideline, so that helped them out as well. And then Maryland, they had a little bit of a scare, but they got the job done. But that was to be expected. You know, you talk about sandwich games. That was a big sandwich, sandwiched in between Penn State and Ohio State. Doesn't get any bigger than that. As we look at the two teams, it's going to come down, I think, to who makes the big plays and avoids the turnovers. And I think Ohio State has the playmakers. There's no question Michigan has the advantage, I feel, in quarterback experience with J.J. McCarthy. But I like what Kyle McCord has been doing. He's been getting better as the season goes on. And this is a guy that's got a 22-4 touchdown to interception ratio, and 13 of those TD passes of the 22 have gone to Marvin Harrison Jr. And when we talk about big plays, that's the name I'm going to bring up because I think he can be the difference in this game. Ohio State has a slightly better defense, and that, you know, I always like taking points with the better defense, but we're splitting hairs. The number 1 and number 4 defense here. I lean to Ohio State in this one. I think it's going to come down to a field goal late, and we're going to go ahead and take Ohio State plus the points. I'll be honest, Kelly, I don't know that I actually get to the window with this one for my clients. This might be one of those games where it'll be a little bit more enjoyable just watching the game.
Just watching the game, Marco, huh? Yeah, we'll see about that. I don't actually know if I'm going to get to the window with one of these teams either, but I did play them in a couple of my contests, so I have something to root for on Saturday morning. Joe Raineri, the look-ahead line in this one was Michigan minus 6.5 back in August. What's changed over the course of the season to warrant a 3-point line move?
Distractions, I guess, is what the market seems to think, because Lord knows Michigan and Harbaugh have had enough of those here this season. But ultimately, and listen, this game is going to come down to something weird. It's going to be like either a blocked extra point, some sort of blocked punt, or somebody runs out of bounds. Something weird is going to happen in this game. We do know, however, as far as I'm concerned, the two best teams on this field are on the defensive side. Ohio State's defense and Michigan's defense are on record paces. We're talking about two defenses that on average are holding their opponents to just about 10 points per game. These two guys are on a absolute monster record-breaking year on the defense for both these teams. We know Jim Knowles We know Ohio State's defense, but Michigan has been every bit as good. In fact, both teams have combined to allow 17 points or more just twice this year. So, you look at the offense and you go, well, it seems like both offenses are really starting to gear up here. I think they've combined for 68 points over the last 4 games. No, I'm not buying it. I think this is exactly what we would anticipate. I think it's going to be a rock fight. I don't see it's a shootout. They're not going to let Harrison Jr. beat them. He's the only guy I think they feel could beat them. I think he goes away. I think the defenses are going to have to make plays, and I think they're going to do just that. But I don't want to have to watch the whole game either. So instead of going to full game under, I'm going to go in the first half because I do think this game, win or lose, is going to have to take place with the offenses making adjustments in the second half. I'll take the under 23 and a half in the first half of this one.
Marco, care to jump in here? I see you shaking your head off camera.
Oh, it's just, Joe, simple question. I'm just curious. What do you do in the second half of games? I mean, you have nothing to cheer for. What do? You take a nap? What?
A fantastic question, Marco, and I can answer it with one word. Bourbon, my friend. Bourbon. That's what we do in the second half of games because win or lose, we can just drink afterwards and celebrate and move on to the next one. See, there's no point in having to be aggravated in the second half as well. So I'm good to go. First half and then drink. Rinse and repeat.
Oh, my goodness. I think that's probably a great... I wish we could just bet. I know this is the college football edition. If we could just bet the NFL for 3 quarters, not 4, 3, I think my record would be so much better. Because usually in the fourth quarter, I need some of that bourbon from Joe. Saturday, CBS, 3:30 Eastern, Alabama, up to 15 in some spots on the Wager Talk odds screen at Auburn, total 49. Joe, I picked this game because a couple of the other good ones were on Friday, and we needed this video to last longer. I'm not sure Auburn, well, this is a really bad Auburn team, right? They just lost to New Mexico State last week, 22.5-point favorites. Now, albeit they were probably looking ahead to this one, but how do you come back from an ass-kicking like that?
And listen, not only an ass-kicking, but you had to write a $1.8 million check to New Mexico State and then thank them for kicking your ass on the way out of the building here. It doesn't get any worse than that. But listen, even before that ass-whooping, this has been a historically bad Auburn offense all year long. We tried betting on them early in the season, and there's never enough offense here. Hugh Freeze has had his work cut out for him on the offensive side. Defensively, listen, they've been good. We were anticipating maybe a little bit of a letdown spot from them last week, knowing Alabama was on deck, but my goodness. And meanwhile, here's Alabama who knows they got everything in front of them. This is not a spot I would usually look. Gus Malzahn was a guy I might want to look at in this spot, knowing he'd get the guys up, but there is just nothing about this offense that is redeeming to me for Auburn. And Alabama, I don't believe needs style points at this time. They just need to win the game and move on. So I do think Auburn's defense will have a big effort in this game. I don't ultimately think they're going to be able to get enough stops in order to win this. So I'm going to look at the under in this matchup. I think it's up to 49 now. The scoring is coming from one side. I don't know how Auburn is scoring in this game. Alabama's going to score, but I don't think they're going to run away with it. I think the first one to 28 wins this game, and I think that's going to be Alabama.
Yeah, how do I say this nicely? You look at these bowl projections, right? And it's like, oh, K-State versus Auburn in the Texas Bowl. I'm like, why would I want to go to that? Marco, make it make sense here. You're the king of sandwich spots, letdown spots, trap games. Like Joe said, Bama just needs to win here.
That's the key. And the situation is, you remember once upon a time when Alabama and Auburn was like almost as anticipated of a game as Michigan and Ohio State? Well, it's been a long time since Auburn's been relevant for college football and in this rivalry. But for them, it is still huge. Now, Alabama, they got bigger fish to fry. Yeah, it's a rivalry game, but it's hard to get, a rivalry when the other team sucks, and Auburn does. And yeah, they had to look ahead last week. If you lose as a 24.5-point favorite, you better play that card. Yeah, we got caught looking ahead, and you better well show up this week with a good effort. I like what Joe said with the first team to 28, because I'm looking down at what my projection is in this game, and I'm going to be bold. I have it Alabama 28-23. I have Auburn hanging around because Alabama is looking ahead to Georgia next week. Alabama's got everything in play. They, just get in and get out this week. That's got to be the motto for this game. And why empty the tank? Why would you want to empty the tank when you've got your new rival, your nemesis over the last couple of years, the Georgia Bulldogs, on deck? I think Alabama comes in here. Yeah, they take care of business, but I don't see them running away with this one. I think Auburn hangs around. Maybe I should have pulled a page out of Joe's book and made it a first-half wager, but I'm going to be bold. I want to hang around for the whole game. I don't want to be drunk in the second half. It's a long day. I'll go ahead. I'll take Auburn. Full game, plus the points. I'm calling it Alabama 28-23, but I'm taking the points with the Auburn Tigers.
I hope for Auburn's sake that Marco is correct, that maybe they can somehow keep this close. But I'm kicking you guys out of here for a little bit now. Wrong way. I always got to remember it's backwards on camera. These glasses, that's right, they're here for you guys. Even though I can't really see out of them, it's all display, just so we can welcome in Ralph Michaels for some TNA. Ralph Michaels at CalSportsLV on Twitter. And I didn't follow up with him before the show, but he better have an Instagram ready to go as well, so we can start posting all of the TNA on the Wager Talk Instagram as well. Ralph, we've got a couple of charts. The first one, per usual, with your son Jeff, is the Streakers.
Well, again, it's always interesting to note, playing on hot teams, playing against cold teams, no team hotter than New Mexico State. How about going to Auburn last week, Kelly, getting paid $1.8 million and then not pulling the upset, dominating them? That is 9 straight covers for New Mexico State. What a job they've done. Ball State and Northwestern, another incredible coaching job for the Wildcats, each with 5 straight wins. Kent State is a program that had 1 or 2 good seasons under Sean Lewis. He left for Colorado. They have now failed to cover 8 straight. Western Kentucky's failed to cover 5 straight. The overs. It's mind-boggling to look at Florida and Alabama with 7 straight overs. Those are SEC teams we're used to seeing under the total, but they've gone over 7 straight. And unders, Buffalo, 8 straight unders late in this year. Iowa, that's the joke. How low can the totals go? I think I saw a 25 this week on Iowa. 6 straight unders, even with those low totals.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I had a buddy yesterday ask me on a different show, Kelly, are you going to take the Iowa under? I said, I'm too late. I haven't been writing the Streakers, and I see the Streakers every week, as I mentioned on the Wager Talk Instagram. So make sure you guys are following them at Wager Talk. Ralph, you have my favorite portion of the show, and that is, of course, the nerd chart. It is week 13 in college football. What's the chart got for us?
Well, Kelly, again, you and I get so excited when we're not having to give out bets, but we're helping our bettors become better bettors. I know it sounds redundant, but we look for situations that people think are automatically a positive that aren't so, or situations that people think are a negative and are the exact opposite. The Mythbuster guide I did in the NFL is really this. So here's the question, Kelly, and I start this segment a lot by saying, if we went into a bar and asked 10 guys what they thought, or 10 women, I don't want to be prejudiced, but if we asked 10 people at the bar, if you have 5 wins, meaning if you win this game, you are now bowl eligible, which is huge. The extra practices, the extra money, the better recruiting. So if you're a home favorite with 5 wins against an opponent with less than 5 wins, take a look at that top left corner, Kelly. Those home favorites that have to win to get to a bowl, 41.9% against the spread. When you have 5 wins and you're a home favorite, you have pressure on you. Your fans are expecting a win. You're expecting a win. Your coaches are expecting a win, and you don't get the results you expect. So that's number one to keep track of. And I will say this, those teams that have 5 wins against an opponent with less than 5 wins, UCF, Rice, Syracuse, ULL, and South Florida. Take a look, though, if you're an away favorite. If you have 5 wins playing an opponent less than 5 wins and you're an away favorite, it's covered 68%. On the right-hand side of the chart is teams with 5 wins playing an opponent with 6 or more wins, so they're already bowl eligible. So one team may be fat and sassy, already getting 6 wins. When you're a home dog, it still hasn't been profitable, 43.5%. But when you're an away dog with 5 wins against an opponent with 6 or more wins, you have covered 66.7%. And Kelly, all of these numbers on both sides have gone back to 2010. So we have 13 years of sample size in this. So a significant sample size. So FYI, those 67% teams are TCU, BYU, Washington State, and Cal. So again, final regular season chart. Hopefully they have made you a significantly better.
Oh, I love that. I was just getting ready to say that bodes very well for my Cal bet that, yes, of course, will be in my 3-team underdog parlay. Ralph, because of all the crazy scheduling stuff, rivalry week, you have 5 systems, trends, or angles for us.
Number 1, Kelly, I wanted to look at Game 12 non-conference games. Now, there's still rivalries, but the difference is, we have Florida playing Florida State, Stanford playing Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson, those ACC, SEC matchups. So in game number 12, if you are playing a non-conference opponent and you are a home dog of 2.5 or more, like Florida, Stanford, Georgia Tech, and South Carolina, those teams have only covered 26.5%. So you're a home dog for a reason against your rival. Fade that home dog. Number 2, the chart we showed teams with 5 wins. But how about a team that has 4 wins or less, playing an opponent that's 4 wins or less, and you're an away favorite? So 2 teams that are both having poor seasons, they know they're not going to a bowl. Those away favorites, like Middle Tennessee and Connecticut, are 32.4%. So another fade situation. Fade teams with 4 wins or less, playing an opponent with 4 wins or less if they're an away favorite. One that we have used a couple times, but it makes sense and I love it. I want to remind people it's a valid play this week. You have a conference home dog of 10 points or more that won a conference game their previous game. This goes back to 2018. Only one team fits the mold. Michigan State is off a conference win. And this does have an asterisk on it, Kelly, because is it questionable, are they a conference home dog because they're playing at Ford Field? So it's not truly their home field. It is their home city. So do put an asterisk on this game. But it says to fade Michigan State, those teams like the Spartans have only covered 34.1%. 2 more for you. We saw a couple of big upsets. We talked about New Mexico State knocking down Auburn. New Mexico, another huge upset last week. Teams off a win as a double-digit upset. And now at home, excluding being a favorite of 30 or more. Excuse me, the line is minus 30 or more. So I'm excluding favorites of 31 or higher. Those teams off a huge double-digit upset win now at home, 33.3%, only 32 and 64 against the spread. That means if you're a fan of New Mexico this week or New Mexico State, they are in fade situations. And the last subset to that, it's almost the same thing, but just a slight tweak. If you won as an away dog of 17 points or higher and you're now a home dog like New Mexico, 5 ATS wins, 19 ATS losses, that is a 20.8%. So system 1, non-conference teams, fade Florida, Stanford, Georgia Tech, South Carolina. System 2, 4-win teams or less as an away favorite. Fade Middle Tennessee and Connecticut. Teams off a conference win as a double-digit home dog. Fade Michigan State. Teams off a double-digit win at home. Fade New Mexico and New Mexico State. And New Mexico also a fade in the subset. So a lot of fades, but a lot of very interesting scheduling situations for this final week of the college football regular season.
Awesome, awesome stuff. As always, from Ralph. He's the best. You can also check out his TNA segment over at the NFL edition of Bet On It. Ralph, I'm going to kick you out of here now because those dogs are barking, and I need some outright winners this Saturday. I love that sound. You know why? Because that means we're sniffing out some outright winners. Marco D'Angelo, last regular season game for college football. What do you got? Got to stay hot here.
Barking dog, it's going to be just a little, one of those yippy dogs because I'm going to get a lot of flack.
You mean the last week of college football? I'm not going to.
I wanted you to have a little cute, cuddly dog, okay? This one is a little lap dog, all right? All right, no big one this week. Sorry. It's getting about as small as you can get. And I'm afraid maybe by Sunday or Saturday, it might go the other direction. It'd be a slight favorite, but it's Rutgers, okay? They're +1, Kelly. I'm sorry. We wanted to deliver a winner. You know what I mean? And it's the last week. We've been running good. We got to get it. So, forget the sprinkle because there's nothing to sprinkle with a +1. But I like Rutgers in this spot. And why? Okay, both teams come in here at 6-5. So nothing really to play for. They're both bowl eligible. You look at Maryland and you look at their last 2 weeks, what they had. Well, 2 weeks ago, they played Nebraska. Yeah, that was an ugly game. They won 13-10. Big deal, but it made them bowl eligible. That was a big deal. Then last week, well, they played their guts out. They caught Michigan in the ultimate sandwich spot and hung with them. They only lose by a touchdown, getting a ton of points. I always like to look to go against teams that were a big underdog and then came up short. What do they got left in the tank? And especially last game of the season on the road, what do they got to play for? Now, Rutgers is in the same boat. They're 6-5. They're bowl eligible. So why would they be excited? Well, they've lost 3 games in a row, and it's their final home game. Nobody wants to go into the bowl season on a 4-game losing streak. And let's look at those 3 games that they lost. They only scored 16, 0, and 6 in those 3 games. Another reason. Why would I even want to look at them? Well, their 3 opponents happened to be Ohio State, Iowa, and Penn State. Prior to that, they had won 3 out of 4. The 3-game gauntlet that they ran through, yeah, that's 3 of the 4 best teams in the Big Ten. Way drop in class here for Rutgers. Final home game. They're going to get it done. They're the team that's more motivated because they remember last year Maryland put a ass whooping on them, 37-0. We don't want to use the old revenge card too much, but you do remember losing 37-0. I'll go ahead and take Rutgers as a small puppy this week. Cute and cuddly one, Kelly. You can fall in love with this guy. Come on.
Yeah, I normally ask Joe a question after this, but it's rhetorical at this point. Joe, who is your bigger dog than Marco's?
Well, I would also like to put out that the big dog came through last week for us as well with App State handling business against James Madison, and that was a big dog, Marco. This week, going to be just as big as we're going to travel and take a look at Kentucky, who is, I believe, getting a touchdown now, taking on a Louisville team that, quite honestly, what the hell are they playing for? Oh, that's right, the ACC Championship, which is next week. Playing Kentucky really has absolutely no bearing on them whatsoever. It was a nice win against Miami, and they obviously celebrated after that win because with that win, they guaranteed themselves a shot at an ACC championship, which is really what they were after. Kentucky, and it's kind of funny, everything Marco just said in that Rutgers game could apply here. You've got a Kentucky team who is, in many aspects, I mean, look at their last couple of games. They have dealt with South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Mizzou. You go down the list, they're losing the SEC competition. They're not losing the ACC quality competition here. And I do think this is the mother of all flat spots here for this Louisville team who really accomplished what they were hoping to get, and that is a chance at an ACC championship, which will determine really what their bowl status is one way or the other. So I like the 7 points. I like Kentucky on the money line. I think they've come up just a little bit short here over the last month, but I think Mr. Davis there is going to run all over this Louisville team, and I think Kentucky not only wins it, but of course, along with that, dog's a little bit bigger than yours, Marco, once again.
Ooh. All right, well, Joe, I'm just going to let you keep talking because it's time to fade Joe Public.
Ooh. Oh, this is another interesting one here, guys. Can somebody please explain to me who in the hell Tennessee is to be laying 27 and a half points here? And listen, I get it. Vanderbilt has won what? Twice this season. They're 1-10 against the number. I can see maybe right now, currently, you got 98% of the tickets running to the window to bet Tennessee. How in the hell can anybody bet Vandy? Tennessee, well, this is exactly when you want to run and go bet Vandy. When everyone is running left, you want to run right. This is exactly what this segment has been about on the show, is that the public sees these two teams and goes, how is this even going to be close? Look at this spread. Notice we also saw last week where not a whole lot of people thought that Ohio State, in a flat spot, knowing what was coming up, was going to go ahead and blow out Minnesota. And guess what happened? They blew out Minnesota. Everyone thinks Tennessee is going to blow out Vanderbilt here. This is a final shot here for Vandy. I expect a huge flat spot here for Josh Heupel's crew, who's going to think they're just going to own Vandy. Vandy's going to show up. They're going to show out. Do I think they're going to win? I don't know. But I'm going to take as many points as you want to give me here and back the underdog in their final game against Tennessee.
Oh, boy. That is very ballsy of Fade Joe Public there. Vandy is a very bad football team, but hey, this is a rivalry after all. Marco D'Angelo, I mentioned last week I was getting kind of chubby with all these sandwiches, so I'm glad that the deli had to close because, well, unless it's an open-ended sandwich, what do you got?
Au contraire, Kelly, the deli's open. Yeah, and we got a big old meaty one for you. We got all kinds of stuff, and I even got a special secret sauce at the end of it for this sandwich spot. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kelly. Normally on the last week of the season, it's tough to find a sandwich because you need 2 slices of bread, the beginning and the end. And generally, there's no end because, it's the last game of the season. But in this one, we've got a matchup between Jacksonville State and New Mexico State. We look at this game, and let's start with New Mexico State because that's where the sandwich is at. They went, as we talked about earlier in the show, last week, they got that big payday to go lay a whooping on Auburn. Now, plus 24.5, they went outright. Yeah, we get it. Auburn figured they just had to show up and win. It was just a payday game, and they were looking ahead to Alabama. Yeah, I understand that, but that's still a monster win to go into SEC country and beat an SEC team. Now you come home in a meaningless game at home. Wait a minute, I'm looking at the standings. It's not meaningless. They're tied with Jacksonville State for second place in Conference USA. This is a huge game for New Mexico State. Nope. Sorry. Jacksonville State, you're not allowed to come to the party. Maybe you and James Madison can get together and, have a barbecue or something because you're not allowed to play in the conference championship games of your conferences. So what do we have? You got New Mexico State's already penciled into next week's game. That game is the conference championship against Liberty. So this is a meaningless game for them, but it's not for Jacksonville State. This is their statement game. This is their Super Bowl. They want to beat the team that would put them into the conference championship if they would have been allowed. I look for a big effort here. And if you're a team that just beat Auburn and you've got the conference championship next week, do you really want to get excited about having to set up and try to stop the run? About 55 times on Saturday, which is what Jacksonville State will do. No, give me Jacksonville State. Put the sauce on there, the you can't go bowling sauce. We'll take Jacksonville State.
Marco, I never like to cheer against either you or Joe, but for Ralph's college football pool, I'm going to need that New Mexico State win. We got $10K on the line. Sorry, not sorry, but you are probably right. That is an epic, not only letdown spot, but full game for Jacksonville State. What a travesty from the NCAA not letting that team going bowling. But I digress because you guys know I hear that jingle in his pocket. It is time for some of that college football gold with VR.
All right, thanks, guys. I got a lot to get to. Usually it takes me a lot of work to gather enough information for the Wednesday segment because most of the football action doesn't come in until late Wednesday night, Thursday, most of it, especially the totals, and then Friday and a lot of the NFL, even Saturday. But bettors are home for 4 days, and rest assured, sharps and betting syndicates know that. So not only are they getting out ahead of the market, but they know that there'll be a lot of manipulation going on, and also the public will knock a lot of these lines out of whack. So you're going to have to do a little of your own work and dig deep to see what you still like yourself and where the value is. So you manage risk correctly. I'm up about 220 units for the year, sitting at number one at profit. Why? Because I manage risk correctly. Let's go. Start off with game 115, Miami minus 9.5, and the over in that game at 47. Move on to game 112, Mississippi State plus the 10.5. Game 126, New Mexico plus the 6.5. Game 147, Kentucky plus the 7. Game 204, Washington minus 16. Game 131, under 52.5, Texas Tech and Texas. Game 112, I gave you that. Game 164, Rutgers plus the 1. 208, San Diego State plus the 6. 127, Missouri minus 7. And finally, 176, Ball State plus the 7. Added a little juice to get that key number. That's so far what we have in college football. Best of luck. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Back with NFL action next.
As always, thank you to VR for his contribution to the college football edition of Bet On It at Greek_Gambler. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow on Twitter. He is also eligible for our Black Friday through Cyber Monday sale. That's right. You can snag an all-access 90-day package from your favorite Wager Talk handicapper for $597. That is just $6.63 per day. With the special offer, you're going to be set for the rest of college football, bowl games, NFL action all the way through the Super Bowl. Plus, you'll get 3 full months of NBA, NHL, college hoops, and of course, any other selection that your Wager Talk expert releases. There is no coupon needed from all of us. At Wager Talk, we are sending you warm wishes and a happy and healthy holiday season to you and your families. On that note, we're going into it. It's best bedtime. This is kind of a wonky one, but I think this is a few too many points for a rivalry game and a Florida team that is looking to be bowl eligible. They want to get one chance to get a win over Florida State sans Jordan Travis. No Graham Mertz for the Gators either, but I don't think it matters. This is going to be an interesting one in the Swamp late Saturday night, and that place is going to be absolutely rocking. As I mentioned, Florida has plenty of motivation between wanting to reach a bowl game and ruin their rival season. We saw last week, I was on Florida plus the double digits on the road to Missouri. They held them to 2 touchdowns and in 6 red zone possessions last week. This defense is finally clicking under Billy Napier. Let's see if they can get the outright win, but let's give me the 6.5. Marco D'Angelo, go ahead and give me your last best bet for the regular season in college football.
Well, Kelly, a lot of pressure. If you remember, week 0, we lost. And we've rolled off 11 in a row, trying to close it out, 12 straight on the college best bets. And I'm going to go to a game. It's right here in my backyard. It's San Jose State and UNLV. And what a story it's been this year with the UNLV Running Rebels. First-year coach Barry Odom has turned the program around in 1 year. How much so? Well, they're playing for the right to host the Mountain West Conference Championship game here at Allegiant Stadium next week if they win this game. Look at their record. You've got 9-2 for UNLV, and one of those 2 losses was against Michigan, playing 6-5 San Jose State. Why is the line only 2.5 in this game? Well, if you dig deeper, you'll find out why, and that's what we did. You look at San Jose State, and you look at who they played to start the season. Their first 4 games of the season, 3 of the games were they played USC, Oregon State, and they traveled to play Toledo. Now you say, well, Toledo's just a MAC school. Well, they're the best MAC school. They've been dominant all year. So 3 good out-of-conference games to start the season. They also played all of the big guns in the Mountain West Conference. UNLV was fortunate enough to avoid Boise State this year in conference play, so they missed one of the big guns. I like this San Jose State team. Look at statistics. They have the 22nd ranked offensive yards per play. UNLV not that far behind at 38. Defensively, San Jose State ranks 56th in the country at yards per play allowed. UNLV all the way down to 83rd. So they're better both offensively, both better defensively. We always say, give me the better defense, catching points, I'm there. But when you go back to the first statement I said and look at their schedule, well, that makes those numbers even better. You played a tougher schedule and you got better statistical numbers on the season. This line is only 2.5 for a reason. I'm taking San Jose State. I think actually the wrong team is favored. San Jose State gets the job done, ruins the party here in Vegas. San Jose State makes it as our final best bet of the year. And guys, let's blow up the YouTube algorithm. Go in for some good juju, some karma. I want you guys before the game on Saturday to go into the comments and say, let's go 12-0. Let's blow up the comments and algorithms.
Well, now let's go 12-0. And Marco, fine. If San Jose State, who is also in that college football season win total wins, you can have Jacksonville State. Joe Raineri, who's also in that competition, who I was very mad at for pretty much the entire draft for stealing all of the teams that I wanted. Thank you for stealing those teams because somehow
Want them back?
CT and I ended up dodging several bullets there. Who was your best bet for this week in college football?
Oh, please. You can have them back. It's a 2-for-1 sale, really. Honestly, you can take Miami. I'm still never going to forgive myself for doing that. So we are going to apparently make this a Mountain West best bet around the horn here, and I'm going to go with Boise State here, laying under a touchdown. And listen, we liked Boise State last week, given the fact that they had fired their head coach, which apparently sat pretty well with this team because Daleson, a defensive coordinator, is the guy that they have put in charge. And who knew? These kids absolutely love this guy and want him to actually get the job, which is a great motivating factor for these kids because they wiped the field with Utah State last week after going down 10-0. But now they find themselves going up against Air Force, who, let's not forget, this was an 8-0 undefeated Air Force team, right? That was, I believe, made it inside the top 25, and things were rolling until... Yeah, they weren't rolling until Army showed up and then Hawaii and now UNLV last week. The reality is they lost their quarterback. This is not a team year after year that has enough depth to really compete and keep it going. They kind of peaked. They peaked early in Boise State. I believe 5 of the last 6 or 6 of the last 7 have owned Air Force here. There is nothing redeeming about this game at Air Force for me to believe that somehow Boise State's going to have a letdown here. They're not. They're at home. They want to send this interim head coach, their DC, who they love. They want to give him a great resume and a possibility of a head coaching job. They are going to leave it all out on that field. And unfortunately for Air Force, too many injuries, not enough depth. It's the same story year after year with them. They are a must bet early in the season and a must fade late in the season. And I'm fading them again late in the season here against Boise State this weekend.
All right, Joe, laying it with Boise State. To wrap up the show, I'm sad, you guys. I can't believe college football season is almost to end. Let's get up that recap graphic. And then let me say good night. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show as much as we always do filming it. Marco is going for 12-0. Joe and I are trying to keep the streak alive, even though my streak has to start over because Iowa State didn't play a second half last week. From Joe, Marco, Ralph, VR, and myself, good luck this week. Let's cash some tickets. Until next week, let's bet on it.